Hello, welcome everyone. My name is Michelle Barnes, and I work in global product implementation alongside my colleagues Joseph Anaya Akanlawen, Chantel Kate, Elisha Anesu Mibire, Rosemary Ndego, Namdi Kenneth Meribe, and Rose Puti Frere, Gordon Sanya, and Gip Simbi. Today, we're excited to share a proposal for launching products in Mexico, a dynamic and growing market with strong potential for expansion. We've prepared a focused overview that highlights key opportunities, market considerations, and recommended strategy to ensure a successful rollout. Let's dive right in. Whole-seed cultural's dimensions. In Mexico, group loyalty and personal relationships are more important than individualism. This is a very community-based society. In the next category, we see that indulgence is extremely high at 97%. Enjoyment and optimism are a part of daily life. Moving right along to long-term orientation, like the United States, Mexico has a short-term focus, which means quick results are valued over long-term planning. Mexico is also similar to the US in motivation towards achievement. Mexican culture takes pride in its work, and fairness and results matter. As you can see, there's a large difference in power distance. Mexico has a strong respect for hierarchy. This means that managers lead and employees follow. And lastly, Mexico has a high uncertainty avoidance. There is a preference for structure and formal processes. Next, let's talk about cultural analysis. This is the global business culture skills. Communication in Mexico is warm and friendly, but just because someone says yes, they might actually mean no. In order to counteract this, we should watch for nonverbal cues such as hesitation and facial expressions, because avoiding disagreement is important. An open conflict is frowned upon. If you need to discuss a disagreement, do so privately to preserve harmony. Time is more of a suggestion than an absolute. If time is of importance, communicate why and what will happen if the deadline isn't met. Clarifying the urgency will help to avoid uncomfortable situations later. Bargaining tactics and strategies. Mexico is a haggling country. Respect and acknowledgement of the hierarchy system will help the process go smoothly. Some things to avoid are aggressive tactics, confrontation, aggressive behavior, and flashy gifts. Some things to do? Be kind, be patient, verify information, and dress professionally to show respect to the bargaining process. Government structure and country leadership. President Claudia Sheinbaum's administration is shaping Mexico's political and business landscape. Her support for the USMCA and investment in sustainable sectors creates a favorable environment for foreign investment. Renewable energy, infrastructure, and digital sectors are all pro-business. However, increased state control in strategic industries and ongoing public security issues present notable risks. Companies entering the Mexican market must align with government priorities, remain adaptable to regulatory changes, and build strong local partnerships to navigate the complex political and regional dynamics. Economic Freedom Index. The 12 categories found in the Economic Freedom Index let us know how Mexico compares to the rest of the world. Mexico ranks 61.3 out of 100, which gives it the ranking of 80th in comparison to 184 countries. Not a terrible place to do business, but there are some cautions to consider. The rule of law in Mexico is weak, as we see in the bottom 4 categories on the graph. When entering negotiations, we will have to be aware that litigation and bureaucracy could pose problems. 2 tools to mitigate those issues are plugging ourselves into the community, both civilly and politically. Improving these relationships will help us achieve our goals in a more effective way. If you notice, the tax burden in Mexico is very low. The top income tax rate is 35%, and the corporate tax is only 30%. Between that and the liberal investment freedom allowed, Mexico should be appealing for future businesses. Regulatory environment. First, let's talk about taxes. Paying income tax is a requirement and adds to the time-consuming task of doing business in Mexico. 241 hours are spent per year dealing with taxes. Mexico's top income tax rate of 35% is lower than the regional average of 47.3%. Starting a business in Mexico is also faster than the regional average. Regulatory procedures such as contract enforcement can take up to 341 days with costs of 33.5% of the claim value in Mexico. But the regional average is 774 days with only a slightly lower claim value of 31%. Mexico offers a decent environment. We recommend using local experts to manage compliance efficiently and plan for regulatory complexities that will slow operations without local support. Import tariffs and free trade agreements. Mexico, a World Trade Organization member, applies the Most Favored Nation or MFN principle, offering equal import tariffs to all WTO partners. As of 2024, its average MFN tariff is 7.4% overall, 11.4% for agricultural goods, and 6.8% for non-agricultural goods. Mexico maintains an extensive network of free trade agreements, or FTAs, including CPTPP, USMCA, EU-Mexico FTA, EFTA, Pacific Alliance, Japan-Mexico APA, and Mexico-Israel FTA. To reduce costs and maximize benefits, it is recommended to import key components like solar cells from FTA partners, for example, the US, to benefit from zero tariffs and conduct final assembly in Mexico. This approach lowers tariffs, creates local jobs, potentially supported by the IMEX program, and enhances marketing with Made in Mexico branding, while still keeping costs manageable for imports from non-FTA countries due to relatively low MFN rates. Foreign direct investment. Here we will give you an overview of incentives, restrictions, and strategic implications. Let's begin with incentives. Mexico has appealing tax incentives such as income tax reductions and exemptions and deferred tax payments, which encourages investment in specific sectors or regions. There are also reduced tariff barriers for importing goods and services, which promote economic growth. Mexico has entered into free trade agreements such as IMEX, which has created tax-free import of raw material for export-only goods. By leveraging programs such as IMEX and nearshoring support, it can help offset government barriers. Some of the government barriers are energy, telecommunications, broadcasting, and transportation. The state controls these entities with limits and restrictions. If the regulatory risks and compliance requirements are understood, along with sector-specific incentives and restrictions, Mexico can be a profitable place to do business. Current economic conditions. Mexico's economic conditions are trending positively. Over the last 5 years, Mexico's gross domestic product per capita has increased from 9,870 to 11,240. As you can see, in 2020, gross domestic product growth was almost negative 10%, but that was likely due to COVID. Since then, the gross domestic product has recovered with positive growth every year. In 2024, there was a 1.9% gross domestic product, under 5% inflation, and just over 10% lending interest rate. Currency. This image displays the average exchange rate of pesos to US dollars over the past 5 years. As the line gets higher, it indicates a weaker peso against the US dollar. As you can see from the line on the chart from 2020 through 2022, the peso experienced a rapid decline, but then in 2023 recovered quickly and remained remarkably stable, but fell again in early 2025. Let's examine some reasons for this decline. Our research shows that decline began in 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic and U.S. presidential election. U.S. economic performance can also harm the peso's value. Significant forces that have increased the peso's value globally are the increase in oil prices, lower interest rates in Mexico than in neighboring countries, and the relocation of supply chain hubs to Mexico through nearshoring. Fluctuations can impact our products by making imports more expensive, leading to higher prices for the customers and reducing demand. However, if the peso strengthens because imports become cheaper, demand will increase and make products more competitive in the Mexican market. Product ideas. Now the moment we have all been waiting for, our 3 product ideas. Did you know that 40% of Mexicans face energy, poverty, and 5 million lack clean water? Our solutions? First, the SP heater. It is a $300 solar-powered water heater, half the price of competitors with do-it-yourself installation. Though the challenge of installing a water heater may sound daunting, once they see a neighbor or two do it and the warm water they are enjoying, the idea combined with the price will spread quickly. Next, we present Agua Pura, a smart water purifier. Contaminated water is often a problem in rural areas, but Agua Pura not only purifies water, but is equipped with real-time monitoring, unlike basic filters on the market. The cultural challenge here is that rural areas are less likely to have Wi-Fi capabilities and more likely to have tech skepticism. Thirdly, our solar lantern delivers light and phone charging for off-grid homes. This affordable option will give low-income homes the ability to have light and charge their phones even when power outages occur. All 3 solve critical needs, but success hinges on affordability and trust. By partnering locally and tailoring to Mexican households, we're not just selling products, we're powering communities. Let's light up Mexico together. Thank you very much.